Let's start recording for the audio. I don't know where I'm going to put this. All right, we're going on audio too. So guys, I focus on blogging tips, right? Obviously, blogging tips guy. Today I wanted to talk about something that applies to blogging mindset. It applies to, hold on one sec, close the door. Kitties. Applies to everything in life. I'm talking about fear. And if anything in your life is scaring you right now, you're really scared about anything. And this applies across the board, and I want to make this as all-encompassing as possible because you have a lot of fear in the collective mind right now. So I wanted to share my thoughts with my experiences and what I've learned over the years to help you overcome fear. It's a little better. Right there. If you feel really scared right now about anything in your life, anything, you fear domestic problems or financial problems, or you fear what appears to be going on in the world, or you fear you're getting really sick, you fear you're going to die, you fear anything or anyone, you fear people, you're afraid of people, you're scared of people, scared of your parents, scared of your kids, scared of relatives, scared of strangers, scared of government. There's these bodies that sit in these buildings and places, and a lot of people are very scared of them, scared of laws. Laws scare you. Politics scares you. Republicans scare you. Democrats scare you. It's scary. Life scares you. You're shit in your pants scared to be alive. You're afraid to be alive. There is a solution to that. And it is the solution with a capital T. Every scared feeling is in your mind, begins in your mind, and ends in your mind. So if you want to stop feeling scared of anything, pull it back immediately as soon as you feel that emotion into your mind and begin to become aware of and feel your fears, guilt, grief, rage, hopelessness. Any fear-based emotion that's sitting in your mind is creating the scared feeling, and it's never out there. It looks like, oh, this person scares me, or that politician scares me, oh, this thing in my body scares me. I feel that this means I'm going to get sick and die. That's just an example. We've all gone through it. Goodness knows I've gone through it enough in my life. That scared feeling is fear in your mind that you're projecting onto the body. Now, the deeper you get into your mind, the more you bring it back, you will find that everything is in your mind. Your complete, quote unquote, human experience is an illusion because the body's an illusion. You're scared of something that's not even there, and you're scared of losing something that can't be lost because it's an illusion anyway. This is a really, humbling's not the right word because it's liberating when you start thinking about everything and everyone I'm scared of is fear in my mind that I project onto this screen of space. I project onto these illusions of things or people or laws or circumstances or any of this shit. the more you just pull back into your mind and you face and feel and release these fears that are fueling your scared emotions, your scared feelings, you're less and less scared. And the less scared you become, that's more quote unquote evidence, quote unquote, air quote, proof that the fear was only in your mind. But the step that needs to be taken is to pull it back into your mind as quickly as possible. It can be immediate. You could when you feel scared about anything, you could immediately pull it back into your mind. But the idea to remember, guys, as you're pulling these scared emotions, okay, I'm really scared. What does it say? What's in my mind? I'm really scared of this. What's in my mind? I'm really scared about that. What's in my mind? It's to remember that the ego can be a real bitch because its whole existence is based on you being afraid, separate, sick, struggling financially, unhappy, depressed. Its whole existence is these illusory but nightmarish, hellish states. So when you begin training your mind and you pull it back in, and you're like, I'm going to pull this back in, you'll hear the ego say, no, it's their fault. No, I'm sick of this. No, I've been going through this for so long. No, it's this person's fault. No, it's that person's fault. No, I need to hold on to this person. I need to hold on to that person, living or dead. No, this person, I'm scared I'm not going to meet anybody again because the one person I met, I had love for, I just felt like it was going to be the one. They rejected me. So I'm scared because of what that person did to me, victim mentality. I'm scared that I'll never meet anybody again because men are scum. So it's his fault. It's the past fault. I'm scared to be who I really want to be because people make fun of me or reject me. People will mock me. I'll waste my time. So all this scared emotion, all these scared feelings, all of this pain and this fear and this frustration, the ego will try to, in its most dastardly fashion, quote unquote, really skillfully, creative, clever, creative's the right word, very cleverly, will try to say, don't bring it back into your mind. Focus on the screen of space. Focus on the outside. Focus on your finances. Focus on the economy. Focus on your money. Focus on your body. Focus on other bodies. Focus on the government. Focus on politicians. Focus on the president. Focus on senators. Focus on laws. Focus on business. Focus on your email list. Focus on people watching. Focus on people not watching. Focus on outcomes. Focus on illusions. 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 They're all illusions. And the more you pull it back into your mind, you see this entire world is an illusion. Time and space. It is. We're infinite. Even this is an illusion. But you have to keep pulling it back into your mind. And as you pull it back into your mind, the uncomfortable process is facing fear, primarily manifest as guilt. And it's not fun to face fear and to feel fear. It's not fun to feel guilt. It's not fun to feel grief and shame and embarrassment because these emotions feel really terrible. But the more you feel these emotions in your mind, you're going to see the source of every one of your fraidy cat, quote unquote, your scared feelings. And as you feel the fear and the guilt and the sorrow and the grief, the scared feelings begin to evaporate from your mind. And as they begin to dissolve, evaporate from your mind, you're not scared. And you live more and more with peace of mind, in love, and whatever you were afraid of, whoever you were afraid of, vanishes. Not because they left your life and not because these conditions left your life, but because since it's not in your mind, you don't picture it on the screen of space. It's all in your mind, guys. That's the secret. That's the solution. Everything you're afraid of, every person, every sickness, every disease, the death, all this stuff. And I'm with you on this journey, guys. I'm just learning. The book the book of life is called A Course in Miracles. I suggest you buy that book and you read it and you do it. Because the author of the book, quote unquote, this smells really good. Oh, that's right. Kelly got Amy's tofu scramble. That's an Amy's breakfast. Is that an Amy's breakfast? It smells so good. The more you face, feel, and release the fears, then you're like, I'm not afraid anymore. And you're not afraid anymore because it was always just the fear in your mind. Everything's in your mind. Everything's in your mind. Everything's in your mind. Everything's in your mind. So with A Course in Miracles, it's a book, it's a mind training manual that shows you that everything's in your mind and that only love is real. It's the only reality. Light and love are the only realities, and fear is an illusion. Everything else is an illusion. The book doesn't have an author. It stands on its own. This is one thing I'll give you. This is a real practical example, real world example. I was scared to share a few aspects of the book, the course, for fear of criticism, for fear of rejection, shame, embarrassment, guilt. But it was narrated to two Columbia professors in the 70s who were having a lot of problems. And one of the professors started getting these dream symbols, and then this voice was coming to her, these like voice when she was sleeping and just during the day, when it was just coming to her. And the one day it just said, it just said, write this down, this voice in her head. Didn't really speak per se, but it was just a voice that she heard. Write this down. I let off. This is A Course in Miracles. And then over the next 7 years, she recorded it. That voice is Jesus, the mind of Jesus Christ, the mind, which is infinitely perfect. And everything in the book, even if it's startling, Jesus says, if it's startling, if it's upsetting, if it's startling is a really good word. That's what he used. It doesn't matter whether you believe in it or not. You read the book and it's like in reverse from worldly education systems. Worldly education systems, anything of the world as far as education, read, study it, take a test, how'd you do? This is all about you apply it right away. You practice the lessons and you'll understand and believe as you practice the lessons. And it's uncomfortable because you're getting into fear and guilt. But this is a practical real world example, something I was really afraid of talking about. Oh, it's the voice of Jesus. People are going to think I'm crazy. People are going to think I'm blasphemous. People are going to think. But when you read the book, especially as someone who was raised Christian, you will understand that every word is perfect and truth. And that some parts that your ego fights, your fear, your rage, your guilt, your grief, the parts of the book that it fights are not real. They're not the real you, because the real you is love and light, and you understand everything in that book is entirely real. And this is just another example, guys. Again, practical world. I was afraid of sharing this, but now I share it. It's the voice of Christ. And the more you read every word and do every lesson, you're like, holy smokes. Then when you actually do the lessons and you hear the guidance in your mind and you follow the guidance and you feel better and better, even if it feels uncomfortable, you organically become more and more fearless because he leads you through fear. Maybe smack dab into it, but through the illusion of fear into love and oneness. Scared. There's so much fear in the world. Illusory fear. But the more you dig into the fears in your mind as your personal, quote unquote, responsibility, you'll see there's nothing to be afraid of. But you got to get into your mind, and you got to pull it back into your mind, and you pull it back into your mind, and you pull it back into your mind. I'm afraid of this politician being in office because these are all the reasons. That's the ego projection. I'm scared. It's scary. It's scary if Republicans get in office. It's scary if Democrats get in office. All right, let's take it. Let's pump the brakes on that horse shit. It has nothing to do with bodies. If I'm scared, it has to do with what's in my mind. Correct? No, it's their fault. All right, then you keep being scared. I'm kind of sick of being scared. I hate living in fear. Maybe Ryan and what he's learning and what he's just beginning to apply, maybe there's something to it. So let me pull it back in. What's in my mind? What fear? What guilt? Grief. Why am I projecting? It's in my mind every single time. This goes for every scared feeling in your life that you project. Every single one. Now, when you really, really, really step into it, you're going to get to some of your deepest, most pulsating, vivid, horrifying, terrifying, maddening fears. This is the drill, guys. This is how you release the fears that create, quote unquote, co-create, that quote unquote manifest your deepest terrors that you project on the world. For me in the past, and this was actually a long time ago before I even was practicing course fundamentals, one of my fears was death. I deeply feared death. So when I was in India, I, quote unquote, although this is the puppet, was probably a few days away from death. I couldn't move. Worldly wise, I would say dangerous dehydration, feeble pulse, whatever, but all those are illusions. I manifested that experience to feel the grief, and an experience before that to feel the grief and the fear, the grief and guilt that was triggered from my attachment to my mother and her sickness and her illness. And I've manifested financial issues over the years that I was very, very embarrassed about and filled with shame about, just deep, intense sense of shame. And I had to explore those emotions and step into them and feel them in my mind to clear the scared feeling from my mind and to clear the issues and to be detached and to trust and to believe that I'm loved and cared for. It was never the thing outside of me. It was never the person. It was never my body. It was never the sickness. It was never the illness. It never is. It's always one of the lines in the course is, and it applies to physical sickness, financial sickness, bodily sickness. Sickness is defense against the truth. So if any area of your life appears to be sick and you're really batshit scared, that's a defense by the ego against some truth that you're not, just pulling right back into your mind and facing, what's the truth here? What do I fear? Who do I fear? Who do I feel guilty about? Who do I grieve? Grief and guilt, the two G's, they're phenomenal. Very uncomfortable feeling emotions, but they're phenomenal truths, because most of us, every single thing we fear in our life and every single person we fear in our life and every single sickness or illness and death and just all these problems, we feel intense grief about the appearance of a loss of someone or some intense guilt for the loss of someone. Intense guilt for when they were alive. Like I had certain aspects, and my mother appears to be alive, but she's been in basically a vegetative state for the past 6 years, her body, which again, it's all in the mind. It's not, but I had certain experiences from my childhood that were intense that I had to forgive by going deeper and deeper into my mind to let go things I was afraid of, or people I was afraid of, or government entities I was afraid of, or this or that, to let go, to face, feel, and release shame and embarrassment. Because the truth was, I was just afraid of these things from the past and these people and the guilt. I had guilt. I had grief. I had to feel that to let it go, to not be afraid. Most of the world, in their mind, in the ego, they repress their fear and their guilt and their grief. So they, when you look around, it looks like you just see the appearance of all these horrible problems. But it's the illusion. It's only the illusion. It's only an appearance. None of it's real. It's just a mind, the ego, in a lot of cases, repressing and suppressing fear, guilt, and grief. And instead of exploring the fear, guilt, and grief by stepping into it, they're projecting it onto the world, projecting it onto bodies. They're projecting it onto people. They're projecting it onto events. So they're like, the ego's like, don't you dare step into your mind and feel those truths. Don't you own them. Don't you step into them. Keep the defense systems up. And life gets worse and worse the more you keep your defense systems up. Because you're preserving something that's not real and you're not facing the truth. It's all happening in your mind. It's not happening out there. If you see anything in the world that appears to be happening now, it's just collective consciousness. It's everybody's mind co-creating it. It's all a co-creation. The more you face, feel, and release the fears in your mind that are fueling your scared feelings, you're not going to be scared and you're going to be happy, predominantly, progressively, and healthy and prospering. And forget prospering, you'll just be happy and cared for and peaceful. You'll have peace of mind. And you'll see the illusion of stuff going on and you'll be like, oh yeah, it's just whatever. It's funny. It's all an illusion. An illusion can't be scary because it's not real. It's an illusion. Fear is an illusion. It can't be scary because it's not real. It only seems real and appears to be real because the fears in your mind that you're not facing that feel the scary feelings. And a lot of that intense fear is what appears to be crippling guilt and burdensome grief sitting solely in your mind. Once you get into those fears, forget about it. It's amazing. It feels bad when you're feeling those emotions, quote unquote. It feels uncomfortable. And then as you clear those fears, then the scared feelings vanish. And then you're not scared and you're living your dreams. And it was just you pulling it back into your mind. How beautiful is that? That's beautiful. That's what God, that's how we're created. We're created as light, as love, and as infinite spirit. It's another thing you begin to say. Whatever you, in your mind, have to explore to reach this point is pure bliss. On the other side, a little bit at a time. You have to keep feeling the fear. You have to keep facing the fear. And you have to keep forgiving. When you see someone in your mind or something and you're afraid and you feel this uncomfortable emotion, it's all in your mind, this scared feeling. So you pull it right back in. Pull it right back in and forgive. What am I afraid of? How am I afraid? What am I holding on to from the past, which is causing this projection? Now, to a lot of the world that's severely in their mind, they severely repress their fear, their guilt, their grief, their fear, their pain, their rage. They're very caught up and drunk on ego. They will not understand these concepts. But it doesn't matter. It's not up for you to make anybody understand. It's up for you to do what, guys? To face, feel, and release the fear in your mind that you project onto the world as those scared feelings. And the more you do and the more you forgive, the more you go within, you face the fear, you face the guilt, you face the grief in your mind. You pull it right back in. You don't go out there. You pull it right back in and you clear those uncomfortable emotions by feeling them. You feel more peace of mind, more relaxation, and you're just not as scared. And I know from my journey, a cat or a person? Hey, come on in.
I see you're doing a video.
We're going to do it together now?
I was going to come and sit with you if you felt like it. What
Pull
are you
the
talking
chair.
about?
Talking about how this is a guest appearance. I feel very, we have to close it now. There's cats. I feel very treasured now. Oh, we have Facebook
I don't
and
know if I can get in here. With
YouTube. No, I'll pull this over. We have a guest appearance by my wife, Worldly, Kelly Cooper of livelifemadeToOrder.com, and we're just talking about how.
Oh, so you do both at the same time. That's pretty.
Yeah, well, there's not many. I'm just really going on YouTube right now, but it's good because I get more views later.
That's very efficient.
Yeah. So we're talking about how anything you're scared of, like there's so much collective global fear going on right now.
Where should I be looking?
Really both. Go back and forth a little bit. Usually what I do is hold on a sec. Oh, now this is charged up. Hold on a sec. This could be better. Oh. All right, this is charged now. So what we could do is this is probably,
look at both.
yeah. Now we kind of have it. Oh, hold on a sec. Oh, here's running so quickly. So this one, if we pull it back, that's better.
Okay.
So now you kind of have, and that looks like, well, it does look heavenly, which is good. Oh, here we go. Oh, I don't know, spammers, but it doesn't matter. Michael Richards. Wait a second, isn't he from Seinfeld?
Yeah.
Kramer. No, anyway, so here's the deal. We're talking about how if you're scared about anything, is anything you feel fear in your mind, whatever, how it's always the case of pulling back into your mind and feeling the fear, the grief, whatever's there, that's creating a projection of feeling scared.
That's good. In my own journey of inner exploration, I've found that our only problem is our thoughts and perceptions. That's the only thing that's ever hurting you. It's never the circumstance. And that's hard to believe because the mind is very outside in and thinks our circumstances and the external is where all our problems are, where all the solutions lie, where all the stuff that will make us happy lie. But it's really not. It's all totally inside. And just so people know that you are concerned about the outside, your internal world is the true level of cause of your external experience. So when you go within, you're not abandoning the outside. You're actually changing it in a much more efficient way. And you get what you want right away, which is just feel better. So yeah, it's always about anything that's bothering you in the outside, any fear, anger, or whatever you're feeling. It's not the circumstance, no matter how much your mind convinces you of that. And that thought system makes a very good argument and it's very convincing. And we've been abiding by it for so long. But it's just like Ryan was saying, right? You bring it back into your mind. What's going on? It's not the situation. It's the perception of my situation. And this is something that anyone that's even not mildly, but even minimally interested in personal growth and spirituality, this is probably something you've heard. And it's easy to dismiss it because it sounds kind of cliche. But cliches are cliches for a reason. And we dismiss them to our detriment, especially spiritual personal growth type teachings, because those cliches tend to be our biggest problems and we're not unique and special in our issues. And we all tend to have these broader issues, which is good. It's good that it's this cliche thing and not some deep, complex, complicated thing that you have to go rooting around in your mind and emotions for. But yeah, just bring it back into your mind. Let yourself feel the feelings, recognize it's a perception. And the great thing about our only problem being perception is no matter how many worldly problems you might have at the same time, because especially the external focus is painful, especially because most of us might have more than one problem going on at the same time. And to think we have to focus on all those separate problems and try to figure out how to fix all of those problems, that feels daunting. But it's like, oh, my only problem is perception. I only really ever have one problem. And with the shift in perception, you get to feel better right away without anything having to change first. I think that's a pretty sweet deal. And a shift in perception means a shift in your emotional state. And if emotional state is level of cause, then you start doing the internal shifting. Your energy is I always like to say words like vibration and energy are just fancy words for feelings. The better feeling emotional state will be reflected back to you in your external reality in some way, shape, or form eventually. Just got to be patient. Maybe it might not be like the next second, but the universe, God, Jesus, spirit, infinite mind, whatever term you prefer, does not need time like we need time. So things can be instantaneous technically if we're open to it. But if it's not, that's okay. And yeah, just always bring it back into your mind. They're just feelings. They can't hurt you. Our negative emotion, think of it like a clog in a drain. Things can't flow properly. All the changes, it's just like a clog. It's like an interference.
Tangle.
It's like you just got to like let it flush it up, let it out of your system, and then you can see more clearly. Those feelings are a distortion. They make you yeah, you don't see things as they really are. You don't see yourself as you really are. And it keeps you locked into the perceptions that created the feelings, which then, if you're locked into the perceptions more strongly, the feelings will intensify. And it's like a vicious cycle. And the feeling of the feelings is what breaks it.
The feeling of the feelings is what breaks it.
Here.
No, take over, please. That's what you're here for. That's what you're here for. Oh, by the way, I'm debuting my new Wolf shirt. Ironically warm. Got that, Michael Richards? Mm-hmm. The feelings of the feelings. And no, this is why you're here. It's a co-creation. It's a co-creation. So when she said, my wife, Kelly, worldly wife, mighty companion, it's the one root cause. You kind of see, guys, this is actually, even though it's uncomfortable to feel fear in the mind, it's actually the easier way. And it becomes the easy way because you realize that every single scared sensation, every single person you're afraid of, every single event, every single body sitting in a house in Washington, D.C., every law, every party, every this, every that, the root cause of the scared feelings, the only root, is fear in your mind. So then when you understand, like Kelly said, that, okay, you feel these uncomfortable emotions, but then you begin feeling better because you're releasing the fear and the grief and the guilt. So you return to your natural state of love and happiness and joy. That's your natural, organic, true reality state. And then with that worldly stuff, if you think, oh yeah, I could definitely use some money. I mean, it's all an illusion, but we use these symbols unless we're going the whole route, we're going the distance, becoming enlightened. Money, husband, wife, fun friends, good friends, loving friends. These symbols will pop up in your experience. Business, quote unquote, worldly business success. Like, yeah, I'd like to have some people help and to allow in some money in the process. That happens. That unfolds organically in its own time. But when you think about it's one cause, your mind, not only will you feel better, which is awesome, then you'll have these symbols, these worldly things popping up in your life, and it feels fun to experience these worldly symbols, this money, wife, husband, boyfriend, girlfriend. So you see, it's like you could have it all by going to the only cause of all your scared feelings and your afraid feelings and feeling bound. And it's really the easy way. I say easier, but it's kind of the easy way. The more you just become comfortable with feeling fear and not beaming it back out. You do. I know we do it. I still do it. She still, we all still do it until we're at that level.
That's not true.
I take that back. Actually, she doesn't do it. I haven't seen it yet. It's actually, she doesn't. It's an illusion. Is this true? This is true.
A little off topic, I think.
A little bit. But if you're willing to just pull it back in, and then even when the ego says, your mind will say the ego, because it's always it's the ego if you're projecting it back out. If you're willing to just pull it back in, and it's going to say, no, it's definitely that person's fault. No, it's definitely this. It's definitely that. It's definitely okay. I'm going to sit with it for a little bit, feel the frustration, feel the agitation. Then you just gently pull it back in. And that's another thing to remember too, guys. This is a gentle process, right?
Yeah, you don't want to torture yourself. But the thing is, which sounds obvious, but studying personal growth for so long and working with clients and working in my own mind, it's very easy to learn things and then not even realize we're not doing anything with the information. So if we accept this idea, even just intellectually at first, that it's your perception that's the problem and not the circumstance, you can't just stop at well, it's not the circumstance that's bothering me. And then you just stop. It's and then try to not feel bad anymore. You have to be willing to look at, okay, if I believe that it might be my perception, what's that perception? What's the story? If the circumstance isn't creating the feelings, I have to kind of have an idea. And this is not some deep analysis of everything that happens to you and every thought and feeling you're thinking but you have to have a sense of, okay, if it is my perception, a perception is a story, a perception's a narrative, a perception's a belief. What is it then? If it's not the circumstance that's making me angry or scared or hating myself or whatever. Oh, it looks like you disconnected.
Well, we're still on YouTube, so you can keep going.
You're still there. And it just kind of is a little blip on the screen, right?
Yeah, well, if not. Oh, there we go.
Oh, okay, so we're back.
We're
On
back.
Facebook.
Yeah.
All right. So if you think that it's the perception, then you can't just be like, okay, well, it's my perception. It's not the circumstance. And then you just kind of go on your day. It's like, if you feel the anger, the fear, the resentment, the bitterness, the rage, whatever it is, it's like, what's making me feel that way then? If it's not the circumstance, then it's my perception, which again, perception is belief, story, narrative. You're assigning a meaning to the circumstance. Your mind is saying something about what's happening that's making you feel those bad feelings. So then you have to be willing to examine, what's that story, what's that narrative, what's that conclusion, what's that decision my mind is making right now that's making me feel this way. And then you just simply get to choose, do I want to believe that? That's all it is. It's not an action-based process. It's not something that tools or techniques can do for you. It's a choice. And people might think, well, how do I make that choice? So there's a core choice that needs to be made of, do I trust my feelings to evaluate my circumstances? As in a very simple system of things that feel good, light, right, intuitively resonant, right in my heart are true. The things that feel heavy, bad, they're not true. So that's where some trust and faith comes in, because we're not used to evaluating things in that way. But if you're willing to say that initial choice of, I'll trust my feelings, then you know that all the bad feeling things, it's like, well, if those things feel badly to me, that means they're not true. And I trust that intuitive evaluation of my beliefs and how the world works, or who I am, or what I'm capable of as a person, or whatever. So if you're willing to make that initial choice, then it's really a matter of rejecting, just consciously choosing to reject the ideas that feel badly and consciously choosing to embrace the ones that feel good. And it's actually really that simple. It's not easy because of your conditioning, but it's actually a simple process. We overcomplicate all of this way too much because we're very action oriented and we think it's action that changes us. But when it comes to energy work, inner work, emotional work, it's not an action-oriented process. It's really a process of feeling your feelings, embracing what's there, being honest with what's inside. And again, nothing more than conscious choice of what you choose to believe about the world, about yourself, and how you choose to view your circumstances that the ego mind will find problematic in some way. So we'll always have something happening that it could easily turn into a problem for the sheer fact that it doesn't like it, because it feels bad. So as soon as something feels bad, it's going to want to make it a problem. You don't have to make it a problem. You can just make it something that's happening and then you deal with it, but it doesn't have to be a problem.
Life is a mind-oriented process. Think of all the different sayings that talk about action as the antidote to desperation, to failure. And those memes are shared and spread and condition your mind, condition your mind, condition your mind, condition your mind, condition your mind. You wake up, growing up in a house, you see family, go to work, get money, work, action, 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 outcome. What we're talking about with this concept, and it will feel, like Kelly mentioned, it feels uncomfortable because it's radical compared to how most people think in their mind. So you're going to say, no, again, bringing it back to the scared. I'm really scared. The world will say, it's that fault. Project away from mind onto the world. And when you start to bring it back in, it's going to feel uncomfortable. Like I have to pull it back into the mind because, again, the ego will say no. And all these witnesses around me, witnesses to fear and sickness and poverty, they agree. And they're all just in the ego in their mind. So I'll look for these other witnesses and say, no, this is the whole political movement. All these people, well, we're afraid of this party, so we all agree. And it's like, whoa, it's uncomfortable to do it. But then the more you do pull it back into your mind, you're going to start seeing the illusion of these other people being terrified of nothing. Because you're not as afraid of nothing. And you're like, oh, wait a second, it's not even there. Whatever I was afraid of, whatever I was scared about, it's not even there because I faced the fear in my mind that fuels the scaredness. It's like me with my life in politics, and for the longest time in the past, not that I was heavily into it, but this was decades ago, I followed it. And then the more I started pulling it back into my mind, I was like, none of it's real or true. It's just or for us, it's these two parties or multiple that try to use fear to scare the other. And I was like, oh man, it's kind of like it is to 5-year-olds. Blame you. Okay. So and then you lose total fear of it. Like there's no more fear, so you lose interest. You don't value it. And that's another point too. You talk about the belief system, Cal. The belief system and what you fear. And then you could think too, as you pull it back in, why do I value feeling scared? And that's another interesting internal analysis in your mind. Like, why in my mind am I scared of this? There could be so many, it's not even about so many different reasons, but it's just getting down to, I value this. That's another layer of, okay, the more I pull it back into my mind, I value being scared because it gives me an out where I don't have to, I have to, but or I'm not going to be moving towards my dreams. Being happy, being healthy, being prospering. So the more you pull it back into your mind, it may not feel comfortable to see what's going on in there, but it's the direct way. It is the fast track. And I don't mean that from a place of speed or hurry so much as I mean you begin to see that every problem in your life, and instead of spending years or decades projecting problems. Hey, Corey.
Hi, Corey.
Great to see you. You pull it right back into your mind. And then instead of projecting the fear and feeling scared for 50 years and trying to put a certain person in office or looking at some government entity or some person or somebody in your family that you're scared. I'm scared of this person. You face and feel and release the fear progressively and gently. So for the next however many years, you're not scared anymore.
Well, that's a part of too, that process is taking ownership of your feelings. Because again, your mind will want to tell you, the mind's always external. Everything's outside is the problem. Again, that's where everything lies. The problems, the solutions, what will make you happy, what's making you unhappy. And it's not true, right? It's like the whole world is a collective delusion that we've created. But anyway, so part of this process is ownership of our feelings. So we can't blame our feelings on politics or COVID or our mom or our dad or our coworker or our sibling. It's like, kids. Again, everything's always a perceptual problem. So if we're feeling a negative response and we're linking that feeling to another person or entity outside of us, big pharma, big tech, big whatever industry, whatever it is outside of you, like it's always people it's going to be people, and companies are people and industries are people and laws are made by people, right? Whatever it is, it's always people to some degree, some way. It's like, I have to own that. Again, it's not the person or what they did to me, it's my perception of it, because we can't really heal emotionally if we think our emotional state is a result of other people and what they say or do to us. Again, whether it's people in our personal sphere, our parents or spouse, or the collective, like politicians and the government and corporations and all of those sorts of things. It's like, I'm upset right now. The only thing I'm being upset right now by the thoughts in my mind, by the perceptions and the beliefs in my mind. It's not them. I can't blame other people for my feelings, because if we do that, you can't really heal anything, because you really won't look within and see where the feelings are coming from. Because your mind will be like, well, it's their fault. You didn't do anything. They came along and said or did this, and now you feel this way. So of course, to the ego mind, it interprets that as the feelings came after the action or the words. So that's what caused it. It has everything upside down all the time. Upside down is the right word. So you can't heal things, because you'll never be looking at their true origin, because your mind will tell you it's someone else made you feel that way, and it's not true. The past number of worldly years, although we're all infinite and forever, but in the world, the past number of years appeared to be the illusion of chaos and madness, because collectively there have been a series of events that have unfolded for us, not to us. For the mind. Very aggressive. It was, because we have to remember, nobody's a victim. We all have minds that we control as we become more inward focused and that we train. A shitstorm of scaredy cat
feelings were triggered in minds that were just, they were always there. They were always there underneath, buried underneath layers and layers of delusion and fear and grief and guilt. But it's like it appeared to be chaotic, and then maybe it appears to be chaotic, the illusion of that, because mass scarediness, mass I'm scared, mass fear, and it's just been triggered in so many minds, and that's all that's happening. It's nothing else. It's nothing else other than this concept of, rather than one person kind of going within while the world's just coasting along, there've been a series of events. Again, it's been for us to trigger collective mass fear. And we have this blessed choice right now, this gift to say, okay, and more people are doing it. They're going within. And I know myself owning it and being more aware over the past number of months. But I had, when Kelly's talking about government and this and that and pharma, the conspiracy thing, which is another illusion. This is an illusion. That's illusion. So the government does this, and there's certain things they make. It's all an illusion. So conspiracy, if you're kind of into that, that's a really good opportunity for you to dig deeper into your mind. Because I felt it because I was afraid of losing worldly freedom or whatever, afraid of being controlled. So I had to pull it back into my mind. And then I saw the more I did, and I faced it, felt, and released that fear, didn't scare me. And I didn't go along that path or go along the government path. So you just see, guys, the more, everything is just an opportunity to get back into your mind and to pull it back in. And if it appears to be around you, maybe most people in your town or in your friends from all over the world, in your village, wherever you're at, just appear to be really afraid, that's an invitation for you to delve into your mind, because you're seeing that in your mind. When a lot of people appear to be afraid, appear to be scared, that appearance is in your mind. You have to really pull it back in. The more you pull it in and you face your own fears, you may see an illusion or an appearance, but there'll be no fear there any longer. So you'll be like, oh yeah, they're really caught in the illusion. And then you just move on. It's like the next breath, you're like, okay, I'm going to go along. I know they're in the illusion of fear, and it's almost like you're flying down the highway and you're doing 90 and you see this mile marker. And instead of, like, since you pull it back into your mind, you face, feel, and release the fear, you see it and you're like, boom, illusion. Yeah, they're like that. And you just keep going and living your joy and listening to Spirit, Holy Spirit, Jesus, whatever, Fred, like David said one time, call Fred if you want, God, Jesus, whatever. And you just keep going, because in your mind, you face, felt, and released the fear that in the past tuned into these experiences and that projected. And it's beautiful that we're designed this way. We have all the answers right here. And all the answers are just not so much acquiring anything, but just unwinding the illusion of fear, because naturally, organically, that we're truthfully infinite light and love and happiness. Like, even these bodies talking to you, or talking if you're not from Northern New Jersey, but talking to you, they're still not real. This is another layer, and this might seem like last thing. I don't want to go off topic, but you see, the more you go within your mind, it's just we have nothing to do with fear or being scared. We're these infinite beings that are here to love and to share and to serve and to give and to create. We're infinite beings that are here to create for a bit. And it's beautiful that's what we are. That's who we are. Ann. Hey, great to see you, Ann. So that's it, guys. The more we go within our minds, I would say that's it. This is it. This is what I'm scared. Gently pull it right back in. And the more you do that, it's like any skill. The more you train your mind, the stronger it will become. And the more quickly you pull it back in, and the more quickly you pull it back in and feel whatever's there, then you shed the fear, you shed the scared feelings, you shed all that stuff progressively. And awesome. And then you feel better. And then the better you feel, you'll be getting these inspirations, these intuitive pulls. Oh, maybe I'll do this. Maybe I'll do that. It's not about the doing. It's about the mind. But, Spirit will talk to you. Intuition, call it your gut, whatever. And you start moving along these paths, and it's like, wow, life really is all in my mind. And the more you train your mind, there'll be discomfort along the way and fears to face, but predominantly it does get easier. Things fall into place more easily because you see it's in your mind. That's the beauty of it. Anybody? Anything else, Cal? Yeah, obviously, run with it. I'm not doing
I don't
anything.
really have anything else to say, really. Just
You
basically.
don't have anything to say?
I know. Well, I said a lot before.
You did say a lot. You don't have to say any more.
Just don't be as afraid of your feelings. I mean, feeling your feelings is the only thing you need to worry about. As far as the problems in your life, feel your feelings. That changes your energy. You'll manifest solutions, and all sorts of great stuff will happen that you can't even anticipate now, that you might not even think is possible. Imagine if you were totally comfortable with all of your discomfort. You're literally unstoppable, because that's the only reason your mind doesn't want you to do things you want to do or make changes that you know you need to make, because it'll feel uncomfortable in some way. And to your mind, that discomfort is a true legitimate reason not to do it. It sees it as like an actual literal barrier that, like, you literally cannot do that thing because it will feel uncomfortable. Ramiro, hi.
What's up, dog?
And that's a reason you can, because ultimately we can all do whatever we want, and we can decide, well, that thing's going to be uncomfortable, so I'm not going to do it. No problem. But just own your choice that you're choosing it, and you actually could do it. But imagine you were totally comfortable with your uncomfortable feelings. Think of maybe just one thing today that you would do. And it might not even be a major thing. Like, I'm going to go start my dream business. It might be going to that new yoga class that you really want to try, but you feel uncomfortable because you've never done yoga before, or you don't have some like yoga body or whatever shit your mind is telling you. Think about that today. Like, if you were totally comfortable, not that your feelings weren't there. You don't even have to go that far in the imagination process, but just imagining that they were there, but you were comfortable with them. What are some things that you would do? Big and little. And again, maybe it might be I'd go to that yoga class, or I'd do this thing, or I'd set a boundary with someone in my life that I have a kind of a fucked up dynamic with, or I would you guys.
Or Mero joined the.
Well, I know that's
still watching.
Your muscles. But anyway, so yeah, just think about that. Your feelings, they can't really hurt you. If you were comfortable with them, you'll feel them. You won't resist them. You'll do stuff all this probably great stuff that would be so good for you to do. You probably stop doing all these things that are making you sad and mad and angry and resentful and whatever towards other people. Yeah, I guess that's all I have to say.
Yeah, that's it, guys. Thanks so much for joining Rom and Corey.
Oh, Corey, that's true. The mind can be a battlefield if we let it.
Oh, yeah, there's some chats. I was going to go in and check later. Ann and everybody. Much love. Danilo. Somebody else joined for a bit. Sherry, thank you so much, guys. Much love. Really appreciate it. We're going to roll. I don't know what we're going to do today. Just listen to our...
anything.
Just stay right here and do nothing. We could stay here for the next 5 hours. You go for a hike. There's nothing to do but just go within your mind. How about that? It's not about doing, it's taking the journey within. So much love, guys. I really appreciate it. Ta-ta, Facebook. See you later, guys. Have a great moment. And YouTube, Michael Kramer. See?
Yeah.
Hi, Kramer. All right. Later, guys. And there's still one more. So you can't make sure this can't be public record.